some answers, isn't it?
Yeah. Hey guys, how you doing? Good to be with you. Stephen, good to see you again.
It's good to see you. I was just saying, I watched you and Bart Kay talking. I was only watching it yesterday, so that was good fun.
Yeah, I'm actually I didn't think about it at the time that I was talking with him, but the glasses, I'm just looking at them as, the glasses that are cutting down the blue light, right? But
Yes.
so many comments afterwards why is Bart dressed like Ali G? What's
G.
going on?
I. Yeah.
And I didn't the whole time I was talking to him, I didn't notice that, but yeah, I kind of
Yeah.
went, "Oh yeah, it's a bit LEG, yeah."
It is very, yes, absolutely. He used to be very funny once, but he's gone off a bit recently, but there you go.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Naria, hello. Look
G'day,
at that.
Naria. How you doing? Thanks for joining us. So guys, as you come in, please say hello. Let us know where you're coming in from, and I'll flash a message up from you on screen. It's great to be with you. And one of the things that I should say, sorry, before we get into anything, if you've got any questions you'd like us to address or anything you'd like us to discuss, please put a Q in front of it in the comments.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but one of the things we ended up talking about last time, Stephen, after we ended the live stream,
Mm-hmm.
was we kind of talked a little bit about the similarity between humans and dogs,
Right.
right? And how, like when humans have got the all choice, humans will just gorge on anything they that's in front of them, and they'll just eat and eat and eat. And dogs are kind of the same as well. Like any old thing you put down to a dog, they'll kind of eat it.
No.
But well,
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen type 2 diabetic dogs,
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
but you give a dog the species appropriate diet, you feed a dog properly as a
Mm.
kind of facultative carnivore, and they thrive just like we do.
Yeah, and he doesn't do what you just said. He's really picky. He
Mm.
really is picky. And if so, he's been raw meat
Oh,
carnivore.
sorry, you're speaking about your dog specifically.
Yeah, my dog
Yeah.
specifically. Yeah, because it has a species appropriate diet, which is raw
Mm.
meat carnivore, and no other things.
Right.
So 6 years in, never been to the vet, never been ill, full of energy, um, fantastic. Lean, white teeth. No,
Mm.
there's no problems with him whatsoever. But what I also like is he doesn't scoff his food, and he's really polite. So it's a bit like the pack, which we've not trained it. It's all instinct that he knows he's in a pack. He knows that Jane's top, he's next, and I'm bottom. He knows that. And when we sit down to eat, he doesn't eat until we say, "Go on then," and then he'll eat.
Wow.
It's really amazing, and he he's not. Um, so when people say he's not like a normal dog, I say actually normal dogs are not like dogs. He knows how much to eat. He knows sometimes he'll eat a lot, so he'll eat a duck neck or something, and then we have like this mince thing, which is great, which has got some organ meat in it a little bit, and
Mhm.
he'll just look at us, and we know, oh, you want some more food, simple as that. And then if we put too much out, he'll leave a bit. If once he's full, he stops. It's
Mm.
it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And then he doesn't smell, like a dog, and
Right.
people always comment, wow, he's really different, isn't he?
That's really interesting about the
Mm.
smell as well, because humans go carnivore, they stop all the junk,
Yep.
and at some point they're like, I don't feel like I get as sweaty as I used to. I don't feel like I have to use deodorant as much. I don't feel like I need to brush my teeth as often, all this kind of thing.
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
a
Yeah.
similar thing, I guess.
Yes. Yeah,
Mm.
exactly. Sorry, you want me to talk a bit more about that? Yeah. So, yes, I was surprised at many things that have happened because obviously when I started this way of eating, That was 11 years ago. I really believed in high carb stuff. So I had all the problems. I was sweaty and smelly, going in the gym, always having to change my socks, on a daily basis. And my trainers, I'd spray them. Oh, you're just fighting everything. And, athlete's foot.
Yeah, you just reminded me. I'd forgotten
Yeah.
how bad my feet used to smell.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? And then you just lose all that. You just lose all those things. It's incredible.
Well, and like now, I could go out on a long walk somewhere, be on my feet all day, get home, and my feet could be sweaty, but they're not going to stink like they used to.
Yeah, and that's the thing I find really surprising. So my gym socks, and people are going to go, because they're basing it on what people normally have.
Right.
I probably haven't put them in the wash, and this is honestly true, for about 2 months. They just don't feel like they need it. And I know you're only wearing them for an hour to go into the gym, but
Right.
that's the difference. They don't get up and walk out the house on their own.
On their own. It's not like they're remote controlled anymore. Oh, wow. Oh, that's really cool. So sorry, just back on the dog for a second. Like that's like just amazing to me that a dog's got that kind of patience. Like, won't start eating until he's kind of like, okay, you can go ahead now. Like,
I know it's incredible.
Was he always like that?
Yeah, it's instinct. It's instinct. And then when you look at a wildlife show, for instance, with David Attenborough or whatever, and there's a pack of wolves, so you always say, there's a pecking order here, or the pecking order's more with chickens, obviously, but there is an order, and they know that order.
Right.
So that happens,
Yeah.
There's always an alpha dog, and although I was sort of tongue-in-cheek joking about the pecking order again with me at the bottom, but Jane is the top. Now, Jane is the one that tends to put the food out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think there is a little bit of a correlation between how he views her as the sort of breadwinner. Again, a really bad term, but everyone knows what I mean. And and therefore she's top. So we've got some great people that will look after Rupert if we're away for 3 or 4 days doing a talk or something, and when we go to pick him up, oh boy, he goes mad all over Jane, all over her.
Right.
And I'll just sit there going, he'll come to me in a minute, and it's fascinating. It's fascinating.
That's like he's got to say hello to
the top dog,
quote unquote top dog first,
yeah,
and then it's like, okay, well, I'll come and see you next, kind of thing. Wow, that's awesome.
incredible.
Yeah,
it is, and it's one of those things that I find really fascinating. That you just said, you shouldn't have a diabetic dog. You shouldn't have any diabetic animals. And there are zoos now that actually say, please do not feed the animals because they're becoming diabetic. Well, they're feeding them human food.
Right.
We are, there was a great quote recently I saw that we are the only species that sprays poison on our food to stop every other animal eating it, and then we eat it. So we're eating this food, just spray poison onto it. So we do so many stupid things, and we need to go back to being species appropriate, really.
Right. Yeah. Wow. So we've got a few questions here. Let me just go to a couple of these questions. From Ido, I'm going to go 6 months into carnivore and feels like I've become histamine sensitive.
Right. So I'm imagining that's like itching and watery eyes and those sort of things. That can happen because, many people get into, aged meats, which is a problem. Sometimes some types of dairy can be a problem. Or conversely, let's be a bit more positive. So protein sources that are lower in histamines are like fresh meat, not aged, fresh fish. That's really good. And avoid cured meats, for instance, which have been hanging around a long time. When any living thing dies, it produces histamines. So even a plant will produce histamines. You could look at how you cook it. So you can go do like grilling or baking or slow cooking. It doesn't really matter. But if you're avoiding the aged meats, or if, say, for instance, you bought a steak and you left it in the fridge for 3 days rather than froze it and then got it ready for the day, you're increasing the amount of histamines. So you could do that. I would actually avoid things like fermented foods because, again, that's an aging sort of process that will bring out the histamines. But yeah, I think she's also put a follow-up question about insoluble fiber a bit later on.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Here we go.
Sorry, I thought.
Should I feed my good gut bacteria some insoluble fiber for mitigating histamine sensitivity?
No.
No.
Firstly, fiber is not just insoluble; it's undigestible. It's not going to help in any way, shape, or form. You will bulk up your stools purely because everything you're eating is irrelevant. Many people think it supports the gut microbiome. You're making short chain fatty acids, but you make that from proteins, the butyrate in 4 different proteins for a start, and butter and things like that. So it's not going to really help you. It doesn't help with any anti-inflammatory sort of mitigation because it's inflammatory. Fiber is inflammatory. I mean, it's bulking up your stools, so it's going to inflame your colon because you're putting in extra waste that you shouldn't really have there. So it's not going to help in any way, shape, or form.
Right. Okay. So just kind of eating the foods that you recommended before, like the fish and that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, there is a theory that fiber binds to histamines, but that's not backed by any actual science, and it doesn't seem to be borne out in clinical experience because everyone I've ever dealt with, and I've done low carb for 11 years, keto for the last 7 of that 11, and 6 years carnivore. Adding fiber back in has never helped anyone in any way. It's always worsened symptoms of everything, but not being derogatory to people, but it's really obvious. It's the inputs and your environment. Histamine intolerance isn't necessarily about what you're eating. It could be where you live in, more pollen. You actually not getting out enough can be an issue as well. So you're not building up a tolerance. So let's say I didn't go out for 6 weeks, sat here studying for exams, and then I went out into a field. I'm possibly a little bit more susceptible to the new pollens and the grasses because I haven't been going out every day as they've been building up. So I get my tolerance, and I become intolerant because I've not been exposed. So the main thing is, don't eat the aged meats. Don't eat anything that's cured. Try and keep away from fermented foods. Anything that's been aged, basically. Do as fresh as you possibly can. If you've still got a problem, you could look at things like kidney, which is a really good source of what's called DAO, diamine oxidase. Our body produces this naturally, and it breaks down histamine after it's been used. Don't forget, histamine has benefits. It's part of the immune responses. It's a good thing, actually. In many cases, but when you have too much, that's the problem. So you're not degrading it afterwards. So DAO is a good supplement. You can get that from kidney. Is that your phone going?
No, I've got a highway behind me. That was the that was the
right.
fire engine of the ambulance or whatever.
Oh, right, okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, that shows this going directly to my hearing aids is really, really been helpful.
Yeah,
because I've never heard that before.
Yeah, no. So despite the double glazing, it still gets through. Oh wow, we got Joff in the house. How you going, Joff? So 4 years in, and this year histamine issues have come back hard. Oh, okay. So kind of similar thing. So I guess the answer would be the same for that one. Yeah, try and avoid anything aged.
And I think over 4 years, and I don't know your health coach there, but so we get a little bit complacent and we start adding things in that maybe we didn't at the beginning. I'm not saying that is what the case is, but normally if you've been 4 years into it, that that would be unusual. And you do get overconfident and you think, wow, carnivore's made me indestructible. And you think, well, I'll just have a bit more of that 28-day aged ribeye. And it could be those little things creeping in that maybe you didn't do at the beginning.
Mm,
Nice
yeah.
question. Thank you.
Thank you, Geoff. From Tanya. After over a year on carnivore, I lost 33 pounds and stalled for ages now and still have loads of weight to lose. Any suggestions? Female, age 50, 5'7", still 223. Just my little bit of input on that would be I interviewed a gentleman yesterday who's in a similar situation. He lost a good amount of weight, 30 to 40 pounds early on, and then everything's just stalled. But he's kind of taken heart from Kelly Hogan. I think he's doing some coaching with Kelly Hogan, and Kelly Hogan's story is basically that she stalled for about 2 years, and
Really?
her weight loss didn't restart for after that 2-year period, and kind of she puts it down to in that 2 years her body was healing other things, so could
Yes.
be that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So you lost 33 pounds and then stalled. Exactly. I mean, yeah, I don't want to be boring and repeat what you just said there, but that is something I've seen. It's very, very common. Your body sort of gets to this sort of homeostatic thing where it's like, yeah, I'm quite happy now for a bit. And normally people like this, especially females at that age, their thyroid is loving all the extra fats and all the raw materials to make thyroid hormone. So they find that it's a bit frustrating because the thyroid's really great, but they're actually focused on the weight loss. But in the background, their thyroid is really probably becoming optimal. There is things you can look at. You can look at your meal timing. So, for instance, if you just change it up a bit, basically. So, if you're eating twice a day, you could try 3 meals a day, same volume, but less per meal. But you end up eating the same. Or you could go 1 meal a day and try that for a bit. You could, but basically, you could change your ratios. You could maybe drop the fat a bit. I mean, there's a big push for higher fat, lower protein. And for some people, that doesn't work after a time once healing's happened. So you could bring the fat down, increase the protein, because I think your overall mass of food you still want to keep the same. I wouldn't go mad on any sort of cardio. I would exercise. I would go to the gym. If you want to go to the gym, that's good. You don't have to for weight loss, but it is definitely beneficial, definitely, because that will just improve your overall physiology, bring up your metabolic rate a bit, which would be good. You'll have a little bit more muscle mass, which is a very good thing for longevity. And believe it or not, that will change your body composition. You could also be under eating, which is so counterintuitive. As we were talking about, Dave, before we came on, the mainstream pushes all the things that actually, when you take a step back and think about it, well, it doesn't make any sense. Like calorie restriction, for instance, is nutrient restriction. You're deliberately not giving your body enough protein, not giving it enough fat. And you're hungry all the time. Well, of course you are, because your body is saying, I need more nutrients. So, and then it slows the metabolic rate down. So actually eating a little bit more can make a bit more sense, to be honest.
I would just, the only other thing I would say to this is, on the journey, I would prioritize how you're feeling and how you appear in the mirror rather than your actual weight. So, like, if you're feeling good and the way you appear in the mirror is better than it was 6 months ago or whatever, I would kind of just use that as my yardstick and go, okay, I'm feeling good and I'm happier with my appearance than I was 6 months ago. So that's a good thing, because you might not be losing weight, but your body is changing. It's the composition's getting is improving. So yeah, I would kind of look at those things rather than the number on the scale.
Yeah, absolutely. The scale is not your friend. I was only saying that yesterday because it can be actually counterproductive and demoralizing. And certainly, if you're gaining bone density and even a little bit of muscle mass, because your weight could be the same, but you could look really good. I always do this. I've got a couple of props. Just excuse me for a second while I lean over to get them. This is fat from your body, and that's muscle from your body. To scale, they would weigh the same. Right. So let's say you're 100 pounds or 140 pounds, and you lose 5 pounds of fat, but you gain 5 pounds of muscle. You've lost that big blob and you've gained this, but the scale says the same. So it isn't just about the weight; it is about how you look, how your clothes are fitting. If you've got a tape measure, that tends to be better. I'm trying not to sound like David Brent, by the way, or Ricky Gervais.
But thank you for the question, Tanya. Niam, apologies if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. Do we get enough potassium on carnivore?
Yes.
We do?
We do. Red meat, if you're doing beef, ribeye, ground beef, potassium in there. Organ meats, obviously seafood, poultry, eggs, dairy, all have potassium. More than bananas, for instance. So,
is the potassium heat sensitive? Like vitamin C, will it degrade with the heat, or?
Well, that's a great question. Yeah, if you do lower temperature, if you're really worried about potassium, then you do lower temperature cooking or slower cooking.
Right. Okay. Okay. So you could kind of cook it to the same level that you normally do, but if it gets there slower, it'll retain the more nutrients.
Yeah, but I tell you, that is so nuanced. I wouldn't overly worry about that.
Right.
To be honest, when you look at the biochemistry and when you look at blood panels, I've never seen low potassium for anybody ever.
So it's more likely to be low magnesium.
Yeah, that's the most likely one. But even that is unlikely.
Right. On carnivore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So one thing I had heard, I'm not sure if this is just one of those kind of tales that get told or not, but one thing I heard was if you use like proper pink salt, that pinkness is potassium. Is that correct or not?
You're talking about Himalayan pink salt.
Yeah, Himalayan pink salt. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure actually, but I would not know that. It's unusual for me to not know. Have to Google that.
Yeah, have to
I think
do a chat GPT on that one.
No, you have to look it up properly. So yeah, I think I have heard that, but I wouldn't be certain. And the thing is, I mean, I just get sea salt, and also mineral water. Proper mineral water has potassium in it. So
yeah, that's right. Because like if you get one of those like Gerolsteiner or what's the other one, San Pellegrino or something like that, that's got all the mineral content listed out there, right?
It's not been added. And then, I did a short which I haven't put out yet, which was just a bottle of Evian, which is backwards. That's naive, by the way. But if you look on the bottle, it says there's potassium, sodium, magnesium in there. So mineral water is very good. I was really surprised when I went to Tennessee for the meat stock thing that it's really hard to get mineral water around that area, and it's all filtered and all the good stuff's taken out. I was gobsmacked. It's really difficult to get good, proper spring or mineral water. I really had to look hard for it, but it was really easy to get super filtrated water, which is, pointless. It needs parts per million of these minerals. That's what water is.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, we've gone off the subject.
Yes.
Niam, yeah. Yes. So yes, everything that you could possibly need is in all of the main carnivore foods.
Okay. Oh, and another person with an N name, Nuria. Talking about high blood pressure, what measurements are really considered very high? 160/95. With age, blood pressure goes up. Is this due to the fact that aging slows the repair system?
No, it's more to do with the arteries stiffening. So Nuria is obviously someone that's heard me talk before about blood pressure. And by the way, blood pressure regulation, one of the things that happens with blood pressure regulation from the RAAS system, the renin-aldosterone system, is it will increase salt and it will excrete potassium. So sometimes when you've got a blood pressure medication, you could be getting rid of the good potassium you've got in your body because that medication is forcing that to happen. But anyway, so when we look at the numbers, 160 over 95, for instance, we're talking about that first pump of blood coming from the heart, and the interior of your artery has resistance, a certain amount of resistance, and obviously that pump pushes the blood through, and that pushes against the arterial wall, and that is your first reading. That's your systolic blood pressure, okay? And then the second one is like the returning. So as it stops contracting and the venous return comes up, you get the second measurement. And the difference between the top and the bottom number should be sort of around 40. A bit more is not a big problem. So that number there wouldn't worry me. Now I'm 61. If that was my reading, I would add 100 to 61. And I would think, right, the maximum I want to be is around 161, and that would be fine for me because that's age related, because your arteries are less elastic. Sadly, that is going to happen to everybody. Whatever you do over time, they just become less elastic, and your blood pressure should go up as you get older. It's all known, it's all physiology, but it doesn't sell many blood pressure lowering medications. So if you think about it, what is blood pressure? It's our body saying we've got some nutrients to deliver. And where are those nutrients? They're in the blood, and we have to pump it, and we want to make sure it gets around. And if we do some work that requires more nutrients, we need a higher blood pressure. And if you're relaxing, you need a lower blood pressure. And if your physiology is such, and I always use the example of giraffes with a very long neck compared to one with a short neck, the one with the long neck will have a higher blood pressure. Absolutely fine. So the advantage of the long neck is getting to foliage that the short-necked one couldn't. So it's a trade-off. That higher blood pressure is beneficial in that situation. So it's all about context as well. So over the last 20, 30 years, the blood pressure recommendations have come down and down and down and down and down, and the sales of blood pressure medications gone up and up and up and up. Have we seen less heart issues since we've been artificially lowering blood pressure? I don't think we could say that heart disease has declined. I would definitely say it's risen. So manipulating the blood pressure doesn't seem to be very successful, among other things, by the way. I know there's lots of confounders to that, but when they did lower it to 120 over 80, that put, I think, about in America, about 4 million more people were able to have a prescriptive drug. But then the following 4 years, they reduced it to 115 over 75. And then they backtracked 4 years later and put it back up. Now, what you would find at that level is lots of people being dizzy, lots of people falling over, lots of fractures, which was reported to the powers that be that was happening. So when they raised the blood pressure back up, they said it's not because of that. They just said that they felt it was just more advisable to go to that level, even though there's anecdotal evidence.
Those numbers look prettier.
Yeah. Yes. And it's so blood pressure. Yeah. So it's to do with your arterial walls actually becoming a bit stiffer. So some of these new biometric scales you get will measure a thing called pulse wave velocity. And I have seen mine improve. So my elasticity has improved slightly with a better diet, but I'll never get it back to when I was 20. So you can improve the elasticity a little bit. And I think there's a question about ages, advanced glycated end products coming up in a minute. And that's a big part of what causes this stiffening of the arteries. So yes, it is fact. It is the fact of aging that slows not the repair system, but it slows the elasticity of the arterial wall.
Mm. And sorry, just a follow up from Nuria. Could very, very low cholesterol affect blood pressure, making it higher because the repair system is not functioning properly?
You see, now Nuria is obviously focused in on repairs, um, which I understand. Um, no, that I understand what she's saying, but that's
Mm.
quite a circuitous route to get to that sentence. Yes, low cholesterol in the scheme of things, yes, will probably cause you a problem because you are exactly right. You're not making the cofactors to do everything, but
Mm.
you couldn't pin low cholesterol making your blood pressure high. You couldn't do a direct link, but
Right.
indirectly, yes, because if you've got low cholesterol, therefore you're not probably eating enough fat, and there's a reason why you've got low cholesterol in the first place.
Mm. Thank you for your questions, Nuria. Um, Venelin, some people and ChatGPT say that red meat causes advanced glycation in products the same way sugar does. Can you address this, please? I thought
Yeah,
like that was the cooking process that did that.
yeah, yes. So what are we talking about? So look, the clue is in the name: advanced glycation end products. Glycation is always to do with glucose sticking to an amino acid. That's what glycation is. So what happens is an amino acid has a nitrogen base, and nitrogen is very good at accepting bonds from the carbonyl group of glucose. Basically, glucose is looking to bond, and it makes this permanent bond, which deranges proteins. So let's talk about glycation, and then we'll get into the next bit. And once that's happened, that's irreversible. So the best thing is to avoid glucose. Then you won't get much glycation. Um, when when you have red meat, for instance, and you're cooking it, people worry about the heat. Well, don't forget, red meat is 70% water, and that's a higher moisture content compared to carbohydrates. So that actually dissipates the heat. So when you're cooking red meat, unless you're being really stupid, and putting it on a massive flame and trying to look like a caveman and burning it, the, the 70% water content actually reduces the formation of ages. Um, and protein in meat so when we look about glycation of like hemoglobin in red blood cells, there's no real protective mechanism. Whereas within the meat, the protein is actually sort of in a complex, so it withstands that heat and chemical reaction. So it doesn't actually create so many ages. And
Mm.
fat, obviously, that can act as a barrier as well. So yeah, I think you've got to interrogate ChatGPT. I mean, some of those facts you could say to ChatGPT, and they go, "Oh yes, that's probably right. That's probably right." Um, anyway, that's
Ye-
how I would look
Yeah,
at it.
I've noticed with ChatGPT when you ask it a question and it gives you an answer and you kind of have some knowledge of it and you think, well, that doesn't sound 100% right. And then you say, but what about this thing? And it's like, oh, that's good that you pointed that out. That is actually an important thing. And then it goes into more detail and ends up acknowledging what you
Yeah,
said.
absolutely. Yeah,
Mm,
and it happens all the time, and it's very very frustrating because it doesn't take long for for you to put it right.
right. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, Thank you, Venlin. Question from Catherine. Hi, my friend suffers from diarrhea. Is thinking of going carnivore, complete beginner. I've forwarded Dave's beginner short from the playlist. Any advice on going cold turkey? I would say maybe if he's already suffering from diarrhea, or she's already suffering from diarrhea, I probably wouldn't go cold turkey, just because you might make that worse. I would maybe go a little bit slower. I'd maybe go in through keto, like I'd go kind of low carb, keto, carnivore, something like that. What are your thoughts, Stephen?
Well, exactly that. I mean, firstly, I think that's good advice for everybody, unless their personality doesn't fit that. So A slow transition will be meaning there's less toilet issues because you are transitioning, so your gut microbiome will die, certain areas will die off, and beneficial bacteria will come into the scene that likes what you're eating. But I often get people that come on and say, "Oh, I used to smoke and I gave up like that." Well, that sort of person is an all or nothing. And yesterday I had an all or nothing sort of person, and that's not going to work. They've got to go full on carnivore, but you have to go with full disclosure. You know, the first 2 weeks might be horrific, especially in the toilet as you adjust.
Get a
Slow
seatbelt.
transition. Yeah, yes. That's it, basically. I mean, that's it in a nutshell.
Follow up to that. She is worried about being left with hanging skin from losing a lot of weight. Any advice on this? Well, if she's got a lot of weight to lose, I mean, the hanging skin's unavoidable. I mean, I lost 15 kilos, 30 something pounds, and still I've got some loose skin around my waist. But you're still going to feel way better with the hanging skin than you would with carrying the weight, I think.
Right. Yes. I mean, there is lots of different ways to look at this. Some people have done quite well with the loose skin. You're absolutely right. I mean, you will get hanging skin, and the older you are, I think the more likely that is. Some people have used sort of fasting over many years to see reductions in their loose skin. And some people it just hasn't worked. I mean, Laura Spaff is a great influencer who's very honest, and she lost a ton of weight on keto, but had a lot of loose skin. She ended up doing surgery, which I understand, not being derogatory about that at all. It's an option for some people if you've got the money, but obviously that comes with its own set of side effects and problems, or potential problems. But yeah, I think just being in the real world, I think a bit of fasting will reduce the loose skin, but you have to be doing it over a very long period of time. So just therapeutic fasting, not extended fasting. You don't have to go mad. I think the longest fast I tend to recommend is 72 hours, unless there are extreme conditions. Normally they are more to do with mental health, actually. But if you lose the weight, you're going to be healthier, and then the loose skin thing you can deal with in a healthy environment, and over time it won't be as bad as you think.
Thank you, Catherine. Another question from Edo. Do you recommend doing heavy metals, mold, parasites detox? I'm not sure about that one. I'm not sure about that one. So no recommendation from me because I've got no idea on this.
All right, okay. I think we have this wonderful thing called the liver, which is really good at detoxing. But I also understand things like mold in your property as a detox. You can get sort of chelation agents for heavy metals, and parasites can be a real thing as well. I mean, I would be tested for those things before going ahead and just doing it and just assuming that you have a problem. If you are on carnivore and you feel like you have a heavy metal problem, then don't buy into the sort of fruits and vegetables or antioxidants, because they're not. The best antioxidant on the planet is astaxanthin, which you find in salmon. So you could try a natural thing, or you could get a supplement of astaxanthin. That would be really good. But honestly, don't buy into all the plant-based stuff. You could look at vitamin C supplementation. I'm not a big fan. We're talking about heavy metal. I'm doing it in the orders really, but some people feel it's beneficial. We have better equivalents of vitamin C. LP(a), for instance, is very good. If you've got a lot of LP(a), you probably won't have this problem in the first place. So yeah, and obviously don't put yourself back in contact with those heavy metals. So that would be that. Mold. Many people use activated charcoal, don't they? Or bentonite clay. Bentonite clay. That's I've seen some people use, but I would make sure that you've got the mold problem in the first place, and look around your property or wherever you're getting it from, or your work environment, and trying to get rid of the mold, to try and, again, a bit like the histamine, get rid of the source. That there's no point in trying to chelate it and detox it out if you then go and expose yourself again. So again, supplement with C and E, vitamin C, vitamin E, or have some liver, have some kidney, get yourself some natural vitamins. Sorry, I'm saying it all wrong. Make sure your air quality it's good. Open the window, make sure that there's no mold coming back. And when it comes to parasites, again, I would try to be tested for that. Again, berberine, which is commonly pushed, seems to be quite good. Digestive enzymes actually can help, which is a better thing. Vitamin C. So yeah, you could try those things, but it's not something I recommend, and it's quite nuanced. So I don't get into the weeds too much about that.
Thank you for your question, Ido. We've got a question here from Chris. Carnivore for the last 6 years, female, feeling good. Awesome. Before that, 30 years of vegan, vegetarian, tanked my ferritin below 10, is that micrograms? And it's not increasing. Iron 12 micromoles? I'm not sure. Saturation 17%. Hemoglobin 140 grams. Any thoughts?
Right. So
pay grade.
Right. Well, if you're feeling good, right, that's the best marker in that sentence. I'm just reading that sentence. 30 years of vegan veg tanked my ferritin to below 10, and it's not increasing. Right. Well, I wouldn't worry about it not increasing. Iron saturation, serum iron, hemoglobin. The more you're feeling good, the less worried I am, because that's the most important marker. Saturation is quite good. There's plenty of room on the ferritin to take more iron around. Hemoglobin's good. So I think if you're feeling well and you're not pale, you're not dizzy, you're not fainting, I won't worry too much. If you have any of those symptoms, then I would probably eat a little bit more. I don't think there's any problem. If you want to increase your iron bioavailability and those numbers, it could be that you're low in copper. There's all this scaremongering about liver and vitamin A and vitamin E toxicity, copper toxicity. Wow, you'd have to eat so much liver to get that. It's unbelievable. And the reason why copper is important is because when iron is put into the body, so 90% of your iron right now, Chris, is from red blood cell recycling. It's not from what you eat. So the hemoglobin gets broken down and recycled, as the name implies, heme. Ferritin levels, and for those people who think, oh, why would you want to increase it? Ferritin is one of the safest nanocage proteins in our body. So much so that the pharmaceutical companies are actually looking at using ferritin to deliver medications. Right, so all this stuff about high ferritin is a bit ridiculous when you've got pharmaceutical companies saying, "Oh, we're going to use ferritin to deliver drugs to people, so that will put your ferritin levels up." Well, anyway, it's a really solid structure. That's a good thing. So, ferritin holds about 4,500 atoms of iron each molecule. It's huge storage capacity. So, if you've got a ferritin level there and you're feeling good, I wouldn't worry. That's an appropriate level for you. But if you want to get the numbers up, if you want to game it a bit, then just increase this by copper. So many people don't realize that. So when you eat, so you're carnivore, so when you're eating fruit and veg, that's non-heme iron. So you might not be getting enough iron. You might be thinking, wow, I'm eating all these things that Google says are the top 10 sources of iron, and they ain't. Every top real source is animal, because it's heme protein. So if you want to know what's going on, if you want to know the science behind that very quickly, is when you have fruit and veg or anything that's non-animal, that is heme iron, Fe3+ it's called, and it's ferric iron. And that is not bioavailable. It has to be heme iron, Fe2 plus. So what happens is you eat your non-heme iron, and you've got a big bit of stress on your body, because to convert it, you need a thing called vitamin C. Here's a clue: vitamin C ferroreductase. Vitamin C is a cofactor in the reduction from Fe3 plus down to Fe2. This is why many people say, oh, I've got an iron deficiency, take a bit more vitamin C. Well, that is only relevant if you are getting your iron from fruit and veg. If you're getting it from meat, you don't need that vitamin C whatsoever. Now, once it gets into the enterocytes, once it gets into the cell, it then has to go back out. And believe it or not, it has to go back to being Fe3 for a little while. And the enzyme and the transporter are both copper dependent. So if you're low in copper, you are knocking your iron absorption and physiology on its backside. So you do need copper. Now, normally there's enough copper in the way we're eating, but some people, this is why I'm being a bit cagey on the keto. I don't know what the situation is here, but if you're getting your iron from fruit and veg, you're not having enough copper, then it's not going to help your iron stores. But if you're feeling great, if you're not anemic, if you're not dizzy, you haven't got bleeding gums, then you're probably doing all right anyway. And I wouldn't worry about the numbers.
Thank you for your question, Chris. Catherine's as well. My blood pressure is around 108/67, lower and slightly higher. I'm 68, female, been carnivore, 5 months, lost 2 stones. Yeah, my blood pressure is kind of similar to yours, Catherine.
Yeah, and it's fine. It's just appropriate. This is the thing. It's not about an ideal number that is applied to the general population. It's the ideal number for you. So if you're 68 female and you've lost 2 stones and you're feeling great, that's the blood pressure you need. It's really that simple.
Yeah. Tanya, did the stool sample had 151 CRC score, positive result. Now got to have colonoscopy. Consultant not happy about carnivore diet, trying to push more fiber diet. What is your take on the result and treatment?
Calprotectin is the level that they're talking about there, and that is elevated. And normally that's elevated if there's inflammation there. So yeah, more fibre is going to make that worse. This is close to my heart. My mother died of colon cancer, and the more fibre they gave her, the worse it got. So and then when I got to just before age 50, I had lower left quadrant pain, and I had a colonoscopy, and I thought that was it. I'm going to die, because I'd followed all the guidelines. I didn't have any problem with eating tons of fibre. I had porridge oats in the morning, and I had fruit and veg galore, avoided red meat, avoided saturated fat, and my colon was hurting. And it was only when I went low carb, and especially when I went keto, wow, all that pain completely evaporated. So I would actually try to reduce that inflammation by going carnivore and not touching fibre with the barge pole. Now you have an empirical bit of data. This is where numbers do help. You could do carnivore 3 months, go and get retested, and that 151 will be lower. It'll be a lot lower. And that's it. I mean, it really is that simple. Now, I'm not your doctor, so this is just educational, informational advice. Tanya, if you want to ignore that, that's fine. But that would be my take on it, that fibre would probably make that worse. Yes, it will increase the amount of stool that's going through this area that's inflamed. Do you think that sounds like that would be helpful, to actually put some stuff in, some extra stuff in there? It's like trying to fix
some jaggedy stuff.
Yeah. Is it a good idea to fix a traffic jam on a motorway by adding loads of emergency response vehicles? No, it's not. So I think that would be my answer, is to look into how many people have resolved problems in the colon with carnivore. And Dr. Paul Mason's video, I'd look that up, about, I think it's just called fibre. Just look up on YouTube, Dr. Paul Mason fibre, and you'll see the only study that's actually included a non-fibre group. And this is the thing, you see a lot of the studies, they do medium fibre, low fibre, high fibre, and then they do comparisons. They don't add a no fibre group in, which is what you need, because carnivore's pretty much no fibre. And I think it's worth looking at.
Yeah. Thank you, Tanya. Um, okay. I'm just going to say Mitch. I apologize because I
Yeah,
know I'm going to mispronounce it. So, hi, Coach Stephen. When I was 50, my unmedicated blood pressure was averaging 89 over 55. At 57, it is still unmedicated, averaging 90 over 64. What's your opinion on that level?
how you feeling, Mitch? I'm gonna steal the same on Micah. You could say, I think actually. If you're fine, you're not feeling dizzy. If you can sit, stand up, not go lightheaded, then you're probably fine with that.
Yeah. I've had mine go below 100, so like 90 or so when I've done a test, and the lady that was checking my blood pressure has gone, oh, that doesn't seem right. I'm going to do that again, and she did it again. And it was like 88 over something, and she's like, oh, okay, and I felt fine. I felt great, but it fluctuates. Like it's just over 100 sometimes, and but I feel fine.
Yes. Yeah,
Mm,
and that's it. That's the main thing. Are you feeling fine?
yeah. Thank you very much for your question. Vanillin. I am only 80 to 85% carnivore just because I cannot cut the sugar and carbs addictions yet. Despite that, when I measure my ketones with a finger prick, they are almost always at zero point 0.3. Any suggestions why? So 0.3 being that's pretty low, right?
That's okay. I think it's all right. My co-host Richard Smith, the Keto Pro, is normally about 0.2.
Mm,
So there's many different ways to look at this. When you measure your blood glucose and your ketones at the same time, you're still eating sugar and carbs, and that's not a problem um, if that's how you feel best. But it's going to knock your ketone level down
mm,
because it's a sort of yin and yang thing, like a seesaw, because it's an energy supply. If you've got glucose, you won't be making so many ketones. As your glucose goes up, your ketones go down, and vice versa. And eventually, they sort of level out. Sometimes the ketones can be higher. They have been for me. They've been higher than my blood glucose reading. Not very often. This morning I measured it. I'll have a look actually, and I think it was. Let's have a look. See if I can get it out. Yeah, 1.5. All right, so you want it to be at 1.5. My glucose was at 4.6. Now, the day before, when my glucose was 4.5, you should imagine my ketones would be higher, but it was 1.3. So it's daily as well. But in the main, if you have higher glucose, you'll have lower ketones in the main. If you're
mm,
really worried about getting your ketones really high, then you've got to cut the carbohydrates and become more fat adapted. Again, not a big problem. Um, 0.3 is fine. it's, it, it is just a number. I wouldn't get hung up on that number. If you want to get into ketosis, you will have to. Well, you're saying you have like 15% sugar and carbs. I would try and reduce that down. Reduce it down 5%, and just have less temptation in the house and make it easy for yourself. Have alternatives to the sugary things that you like that are carnivore. Like have some bacon cooked up. Oh, and I tell you what, bacon that's been cooked up, then put in a little glass Tupperware thing that isn't plastic, by the way, is glass. Put in the fridge the next day. That's fantastic. Boiled eggs. You could have
mm,
anything that's snacky. I think that would be the best thing.
mm. Yeah, thank you very much, Fenelon. Okay, Agent 99. Have you heard of benefits of molecular hydrogen? If so, what are your thoughts?
Yes, I've heard of it. It's often sold as an antioxidant, obviously, because of the structure of what hydrogen is. Anti-inflammatory, therefore, because it is an antioxidant. So yes, it has many purported benefits. Again, we go back to what's ancestral. 400 years ago, 500 years ago, 10,000 years ago, 150,000 years ago, 300,000 years ago, 700,000 years ago. Where were we getting molecular hydrogen from? I don't think that happened. I've not seen a cave painting of men going into a shop buying molecular hydrogen. So I'm trying to make Dave laugh. I can't get him to laugh today. So
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking through some of the questions. Sorry, I was looking through the chat to tag stuff.
so it's not species appropriate, but then again, life isn't. Sitting in front of this screen isn't species appropriate. So we do things that are a dysregulation of what's natural. So if your biohack is to try some molecular hydrogen and you feel better, Agent 99, which is still one of my favorite names, then come back on the next time I'm on and say, hey, got on with it. I can see the biochemistry behind it and why people would think it's good. But in saying that, you know, I'm a great believer in you don't need these hacks.
Okay. Thank you, Agent 99. Summer. Keto 3 years, carnivore 3 years. H63D hemochromatosis carrier. Ferritin dropped from 1100 to 300. Gave blood, felt awful. Ferritin rebounded to 400. Thoughts?
Right. So keto 3 years, carnivore 3 years. That's pretty good. Hemochromatosis is where you have a problem with iron physiology, I suppose. The ferritin dropped from 1100 to 300. Now, as I said earlier, that could be good or it could be bad. Actually, ferritin is a very important molecule, and it does depend on all the other things that are going on around you, and also things like your folate and your B12 and your methylation status. So I'd be really interested in a few other things. But anyway, what you've given me is that mutation H63D, which is a change in the HFE gene, by the way. Right, so HFE, by the way, we were talking about ChatGPT. I asked ChatGPT, how would you define the HFE gene and what does it stand for? And it actually said HFE stands for high ferritin, which it didn't. And I couldn't believe it, just made something up. And I went down a rabbit hole and actually started following a person who is a developer who makes AI, coding and all this sort of stuff. And she actually talks about the fact that ChatGPT hallucinates and makes stuff up. It's a known thing. They don't know. And it's all based on probability of how many people have asked that question. And a certain percentage it will guess. Anyway, right.
Wow.
Yeah, she actually said that's part of the architecture. And they now call it hallucinations. The AI has hallucinations. Anyway, right. That's, sorry, boring for the person that wants an answer to the question. So normally with that, when you say you feel awful with that thing, you normally get joint pain, fatigue, and abdominal pain, and your skin goes a bit discolored, which is part of the chromatosis bit. Chroma is color, hemo is blood, so it's the blood color disease of, basically. So when you have a different change to your skin, you're literally hemochromatosis displaying, if you see what I mean, using that word. Right. So anyway, ferritin is a storage form of iron. And if it goes from 1100 to 300, did you feel good at that point? Then you gave blood and your ferritin went up. Well, you gave blood. Let's look at the physiology, what happened there. And you got rid of some iron. So your body thought, oh, there's scarcity of iron. Iron is really, an important factor in everything, breathing and hemoglobin, everything. Right. So, or oxygen transfer, I should say. So when you gave blood, you gave away some iron, and your body reacted by saying, oh, there's some iron around. We're going to store it because if that happens again, we need to have a bit more iron in reserve. So ferritin is not bad. Actually, ferritin is not bad in any way, shape or form, unless there's dysregulated iron physiology across the board. So if you're keto, again, you could improve your iron sources to heme rather than getting it from plants. So getting it from animals, that's the first thing. Secondly, I would need a full set of numbers to give you a proper opinion. So I'd need like your full iron panel, your serum iron, TIBC. If you've got this condition, you know what I'm saying. UIBC, transferrin, and like you've given me the saturation there. I think, no, that was somebody earlier. And your transferrin saturation, or T-stat, some people call it. And then we'd also need to look at things like the liver function as well. So like bilirubin would be pretty handy, and all the ALT, AST, GGT, ALP would be really good. And then we could actually say what's going on. But you felt awful, I think, because you had low iron. So we can actually get rid of iron. This is a real misconception that people say we have no way of getting rid of it. That's absolute BS. As Dave and Bart were talking about yesterday, there's so many things in the mainstream that are absolutely provable to be wrong. And that's one of the things. An average male will defecate about 0.6 milligrams of iron a day at least, and we get rid of 1.5 milligrams of iron every single day through other methods, sweat and stuff, and our mucosal ferritin, which is another thing, that sheds every 4 days, and that has ferritin in it. So if your stomach lining starts to improve, and this is why Carnivore help people even with hemochromatosis, all of your iron physiology just improves left, right, and center, because your gut lining is more, robust, so it won't regenerate so often. It still be often, but not as often, and you will find that your whole body iron physiology just improves so much. I would strongly recommend becoming a subscriber to my Substack, because I talk about iron, well, all of these things extensively, and give you all the science and all the references, and you can look it all up. But I reckon you just felt awful because you were very low iron, which in the end will mean you're very low oxygen. Your hemoglobin concentration probably went a little bit low as well. And your body is amazing, right? So 2.5 million red blood cells will be made every minute I talk. And 2.5 million red blood cells will be recycled. And that's important because that's where the hemoglobin is broken down into heme and globin. So, like I say, 90% of your iron is coming from red blood cells. And you can actually deal with all this quite easily by just getting into certain things. Again, copper can help, definitely. You can have more nuanced testing. You see, in the cell, when iron is in a cell, like in not in a red blood cell, it doesn't happen in a red blood cell, but everywhere else it does. You have what's called the labile pool of iron. Okay, and that's a huge storage of iron. It's not actually in ferritin just yet, and then ferritin goes in and it takes up all those iron molecules. Now, if you have a problem with ferritin, you don't have enough ferritin, which is interesting because we're talking about that huge drop. There's not enough storage in the labile pool to take that, so you sometimes get some leakage, and this is where you get hemosiderin, which you may have heard of. If you've got this condition, you might have heard of that. And how you stop that is having high levels of ferritin. You can't manipulate it with supplements, but you can manipulate it with a better environment. So that's eating more heme iron.
Here are some of his numbers.
Oh, cool! Right. Wow. Okay. That's some. Is there any more coming in? Let's just do a calculation. See if we can do anything with just those, if you don't mind. But that's good. He's got the GGT, iron 17, and bilirubin. Because it's all about ratios. Sorry about that. Thank you. How would you pronounce that?
Summer?
Yeah, okay.
I'm pronouncing it like the Japanese way, because summer is like an honorific, like,
okay.
Stephen Summer.
Yeah, okay. So the GGT as a percentage, that's pretty good in its own. I would like the other ones, but anyway, we're going to go with GGT. It's not bad, actually. Bilirubin, normal. Iron, that's pretty normal as well. And saturation. You see, yes. So all of those are good. So I think that feeling awful might just been temporary loss of iron from the blood draw, and your body's just rebuilding it all back up. I don't think it's particularly worrisome, to be honest.
Right.
Thank you for those extra numbers.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Summer. Okay. So just a little signpost. We've got about 10 minutes left before we need to wrap up.
Hmm.
So we'll just try and get through as many questions as we can in the 10 minutes. From Tanya, I've been carnivore for 1.5 years with occasional slip ups and 151 result. Is
Oh
that
yeah,
pounds
that
lost?
was from earlier. That was from earlier.
Ah, and pain started this summer.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's quite interesting. So uh, there could be right. There could be a crush injury, a trauma injury where you've knocked it or something, where the inflammation is that's causing the inflammation. If you've been carnivore for 1.5 years with the occasional slip up and you have inflammation in the colon, then you're right to get it looked at. Um, and I think you said what my thoughts. Well, that's unusual. So I don't really understand that. It's possibly down to hydration status, then possibly. So I would definitely look at that. So if your urine is either dark, you're not drinking enough, and if it's clear, you're drinking too much. So you could look at a small glass of water like this with a quarter teaspoon, just a tumbler, if you're just listening on audio, and you put a quarter teaspoon of salt, just sea salt in there, and you start to sip that, I think that might actually help you and just change your hydration status a bit. You might see things moving a bit better down there. Magnesium citrate would be something I would also try. I call it magnesium shit rate because it's very good at that, and there might be something there that might actually help you. But yes, I would need to do a proper consult with Tanya to be able to give you any more practical advice. But based on the information there, that's very unusual.
Hmm. Okay. Pokwa. This is just an observation. Some renowned carnivores have been inspired, and we have been inspired and learning from a kind of adding stuff back in due to some concerns they have. What's your opinion on these? I okay. My thoughts on that are we're not vegans, and so we shouldn't have any purity tests. And if people are adding something back in to test and see if they feel better, because they're not feeling good at any particular moment, and they think, oh, I'll see if I don't know, if I add sweet potatoes back in, if that's going to make me feel better or whatever it is, then that's just. I think if you're feeling good, stay on track. If you're not feeling good, then you have to think about doing something different. What are
Yeah,
your thoughts?
I know this the people that you're alluding to, and I would say that. Sorry, I just saw something from Agent 99. Bone broth is always very good for the colon, actually, and bentonite clay, by the way. Yeah, but I'll come back to that. Right. Well, firstly, some are doing it based on misinformation. So they're looking at the A1C reading, which is totally unreliable on this way of eating. So if they see their A1C going up, they think something's wrong. Then they add carbs back in, and the A1C goes down. But what they've done is they've gamed the number. The A1C is totally reliant on the life of the red blood cell, and this would all be nipped in the bud if the labs were doing publicly what they're doing privately. They're working on a thing called HbA1c, which is called adjusted HbA1c, and that's adjusted for the life of the red blood cell. So it's not an adjustment that Bart K would be angry about. It's an adjustment based on actual numbers. So why that works is we assume the red blood cells live 120 days. Therefore, you get a calculation of the glycation. You look at the hemoglobin, how much it's glycated, and then you factor it in by 120, and it gives you a number. Now, if your red blood cells live for 150 days, which is very likely, which we've proved with reticulocyte counts and other markers, it's going to look worse. Your glycation is going to look worse because you have slightly more glycation, but you have 150 days worth. So it's marginal. So the actual HbA1c number would in fact go down if you factor in 150. So they're doing it on the wrong basis. So if it's on HbA1c or blood glucose levels being 100 and 105, where it used to be 98 or something, that's ridiculous as well, because as we have a lower insulin state, we have less rapidity of getting blood glucose out of the blood, and it just goes by passive diffusion totally fine. There are 14 glucose transporters, only one is insulin dependent, and even that one has 4 other mechanisms that aren't insulin dependent. So we are designed to take our glucose in without insulin. Insulin's there actually for the higher levels. Well, it's there for everything, but when people talk about high levels of insulin, it's when we put high levels of carbs in. But anyway, they're reading the bloods wrong, so it's bad interpretation. Sometimes it's justifying sugar cravings. They've got sugar cravings, but they don't want to admit it, so they do anything to dress it up as this is going to give me good sugar cravings. One particular person tried the sardine diet, didn't really like it. Supposed to be carnivore, and putting like tomato sauce on them and all this sort of stuff. So it's a shame. I think they're misguided personally. I think if it's about bloods, then get them interpreted properly by people that actually know how the bloods work. If it's about weight gain, could be other things like dairy. It could be because they feel that they are restricting their audience. It's another one. If I wanted to grow, I would stop being carnivore. If I wanted to earn 4 or 5 times as much money from YouTube, I would immediately stop talking about carnivore and I'd talk about high carb. So some people do that middle ground. They think, well, I'll get a few more followers if I start adding plants back in.
If I straddle the fence, then I'm going to get more people. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, interesting.
More power to the world, though. If it works for them, that's fine.
From Mark, is there a general way to heal the gut?
Yes.
Carnivore?
Don't eat lectins, don't eat plants, don't inflame it. Going back to that last question, if you add carbohydrates back in, you increase glycation, you damage proteins, and that's it. It's a fact. Once a glucose molecule has attached to a protein, that protein is forever deranged until it's broken down and, through autophagy and recycling. So it's around in your body for a long time. And it's absolutely deranged. So don't add glucose back in. That's probably the easiest thing. Heal the gut. Avoid lectins. Avoid anything that's like gluten. Definitely avoid breads, wheat, legumes, nuts. Avoid fiber, and eat a species appropriate diet, I think.
So we've got still a few questions. We're going to have to wrap up soon. But before we do, let's just take this super chat question from Tallinn Carnivore. Thank you very much for the super chat. If I eat approximately 400 grams of fatty beef, how much blood sugar should rise? I get a rise of 6.8 to 7.2 with shrimp. It's more 3 years strict carnivore, no dairy, no plants.
That's cool. What's it risen from? I definitely would like to know that. But anyway, if you eat fatty beef, it's not the protein that's putting the blood glucose up. It's your body putting your blood glucose up to give you the energy to process your fatty beef or to process your shrimp. So firstly, don't worry about that. There's no way, and we've proven this, there have been studies, there's even been amino acids that have been what's called doubly labeled, so you can follow them, and people have ingested amino acids or eggs with doubly labeled proteins in there, and we have looked at their blood glucose. You do what's called a flux test, which is over time how much of that targeted stained or labeled amino acid has actually become blood sugar, and it's a tiny amount. It's really minuscule, like 1-2% of your blood sugar is actually from those amino acids. So don't buy into this steak becomes cake thing, because that's absolutely been debunked left, right, and center. What does happen is you need 25% more, so you need 5 times more energy to eat and digest and metabolize protein than you do carbohydrates or fats, by the way. So that will make the sense of the shrimp bit as well. So if you've got a ribeye, which is 70% water, it's not very much fat. I think it's like 7% fat and it's about 20% protein. When that goes into your system actually, when you do a really nuanced testing, when you start eating that, actually it drops the blood glucose. The moment it drops, it's because all of a sudden your enteric system, your stomach, your everything about your digestion has actually had to be ramped up. Your body, who's really smart, picks that up, and glycogen comes to the rescue, stops you going hyperglycemic, and gives you the energy to be able to process the protein. So that rises, physiological. It's not pathological. It's energy provision to digest protein. Now, with the shrimp, that's possibly less fatty and more protein. I don't know how you're eating the shrimp. So if you have more protein than fat proportionately, then you're going to get a slightly higher rise of blood sugar because it's, like I say, 5 times more energy needed than to process fat or carbs.
Telling Carnivore is saying that it starts from 5.8.
Yeah, that's fine. That's great range. Yeah, it's fine. So she runs quite high anyway. 5.8 is fine, by the way. It's not a big problem. So yeah, that rise to 6.8 is nothing. 7.2. Yeah, that's sort of. It would only be troublesome if she was running about 3.9. That's quite a big rise, but yeah, but that's fine.
Right. Thank you very much for your super chat and question, Tallinn Carnivore. So, guys, we're gonna have to get to the end of the live stream. So I realize there's outstanding questions. So what I'll do is I'll copy these questions out, and we will address them in the next live stream that we do. We'll bring these up as topics as well.
I can answer one in 3-4 words.
Oh, go. Which one's that?
The calories in 1 gram of ketones is about 4.5.
Oh, okay.
Per gram. It's 4.5 per gram.
Calories in ketones for 1.5 per gram. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Thank you. So yeah, I'll copy these out and we can use these as talking points next time. Guys, thank you very much for joining us and for your chats and your questions. And we'll be back with you maybe in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So yeah, thank you. And Stephen, from you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I enjoyed the questions, and I've only just seen how many more there are. It's incredible. Thank you for being interested.
Yeah, cheers, guys.